Hi, this is Little Dwarf playing games while rambling incoherently into a microphone. Why? Well, just because I can, and I continue with Vampire the Masquerade, Shadows of New York, Blind. Now, I'm here talking with Torque, and I've just decided to go all honest, and so fuck it, here we go. Listen, you're obviously the hottest new thing in town. People like you, people follow you. You're said to be the Anarch, people think, when they think of the New York City. Good for you. But you're obviously way behind when it comes to understanding relationships. Tamika gave it a serious try. She understood her path, she understood yours. She realized that they are diametrically opposed. And that's that. You're not going to change her mind by acting like a toxic shithead and forcing her to come grovel at your feet if she wants to get something that has a great sentimental value to her. You want to earn her trust again? Don't act like a power-tripping asshole. Show her you are capable of responding to her concerns, that you are capable of being selfless. That's the only thing you can do to change her mind. Sorry. To be honest, that was a pretty great lecture, I feel like. I guess we'll see whether it is going to be effective, because those two things are totally separate and unrelated. You might have the best argument, but it might still not work with a certain person. Okay, I'm done. Fuck me and my big mouth. He approaches the door and throws it wide open. Mia? Yes, boss? We're done here. Lead this lady out, and as quickly as possible. Yes, boss. I have a lot of things I would say to describe his behavior, but I don't want to cause a diplomatic incident. No need, I'm going. Thank you for your time. Well, I guess that didn't exactly work. And tell her I will show her that she's wrong. Tell her I will prove myself worthy of that ring, if it is the last thing I do. Whatever. I let myself be let out of the building by Mia. Another mission failed. Time to meet Tamika and tell her the bad news. I find her already waiting in front of the Jewish Museum. How did it go? Let me put it this way. I'm not surprised you dumped him. So you did not succeed. Nah. He got mad and started yelling about how he will prove himself to be worthy of that gift. Then he ran me out of the building. Is she trying to stop herself from laughing? What's so funny? Nothing. I'll be honest, I kind of expected that. It's just nice to get a definite confirmation that he's still a bit of a toxic asshole, that's all. Well, glad I fell for the oldest trick in the book. Would be cool if for once a kindred telling me to do one thing didn't mean another thing entirely. Don't be mad. I wanted to be sure of something and now I am. As far as I am concerned, you have kept your end of the bargain. It's time I repay the favor. Last year, a certain fledgling appeared in the city and attempted to build a coterie. The list you found on Callahan? That's the list they've got. Yeah, so this is about the protagonists of Coteries of New York. They contacted each of us, then found themselves in deep shit. SI, Kaiser, Sophie Langley, some shadow player manipulating everything from behind the scenes. Then they disappeared. Kaiser. That name keeps popping up once again. It can't be a coincidence. No one knows where they are. No one knows where they disappeared to or why. Doesn't really matter. That happens when you punch way above your weight. Hope they are doing fine despite all odds. In any case, Torx got involved too. That's how I met him actually. He got hurt. Didn't want to say how. Claimed it could put anyone who knew in danger. Whatever happened, It gave him a drive and a desire for change. For 2 months, he was a beautiful kindred, plain and simple. But suddenly, something in him snapped overnight. His tone mellowed out, his actions became timid, his language became more befitting of a political science student than a charismatic leader. I assumed he had met someone who made him an offer he couldn't refuse, but I had no idea who that was. Well, my money is kind of on Thomas Arturo, because obviously he was the mastermind behind the plot of the first game. And then, one night, I followed him to when he went out, and I saw him scheming at the docks with Callahan. When he came back, we had an argument. When he refused to explain himself, I knew I was on my way out. And that was that. I understand. Wish I'd known that earlier, might have confronted the facts with him and learned something more. He never told me of all kindred. What makes you think he would have told you? She's got a point, I suppose. Alright, thank you. Now it's my turn. Here is your way out. I point to the manhole below our feet. Here's the map of the sewers. Follow the route and then burn it. You'll be looking for a one-eyed Nosferatu wearing tactical gear. Tell him I send you, then give him the agreed-upon amount of money. What kind of route will I be taking anyway? An armored van full of precious coffins. My man knows how to arrange them to allow for unnoticed extra cargo. Her face darkens. The circulatory system? What? Wait, what? What did you expect? The rich and powerful always get the blood they want, one way or another. At least tonight, one of the routes will be used for something good. Oh, so is the circulatory system like basically a slavery ring, where they kidnap people to then drain them dry for the nourishment of vampires? She drops her shoulders in resignation and opens up the manhole cover. Fine, but remember, if it doesn't work, I will be back at your doorstep with a vengeance if it's the last thing I do. I'm sure it will work out fine, just be aware of the giant albino ghoul alligator while you're down there. Tamika rolls her eyes. Sewer ghoul alligator? For your information, it's just a story New York kindred tell to neonates to mess with them while they are still gullible enough to believe anything they hear about their new world. That makes sense, I suppose. To be honest, according to the rules, I think it's entirely possible to ghoul an alligator, but I guess an alligator living in the sewers of New York is another matter entirely. Well, this is a goodbye. If in a few months you hear about the First Light presence in that the First Light presence in Los Angeles has been decimated, assume that against all odds, I am still unalive and kicking. If you keep killing indiscriminately, you might cross the line of no return, you know. Shouldn't you take it easy for a while? Not until my brothers and sisters in blood stop being slaughtered. I care about what's left of my humanity, but turning a blind eye on kindred in need would be even less human. So that's the kind of person she is, and probably will be until the very end. It must be comforting, in a way, to know how your path will end, yet to follow it all the same. I could never do that. Here's some parting advice for you. We might be monsters, but we're lucky enough to be born into a world that's even more monstrous than we are. If we rebel against it, we might still find salvation. If only I could believe it. Didn't expect the preaching tone. Why are you telling me this? Because I think you have a pretty good nose for people's auras, and when I take a look at you, I smell a penchant for ruthless opportunism. It's not much, just a hunch, but you seem prone to giving in to the Camarilla's empty promises of safety and their bourgeois values. I think I should take offense to that. I hope you do. That would reflect on you well. In any case, whatever happens, see you in your next life, Julia. Safe travels, Tamika. I skipped tonight's visit to the church. I am not in the mood to see Benoit. I'm still embarrassed about yesterday's outbursts. And I'm kind of pissed off that none of the clan elders in Chicago bothered to reply to any of my fucking reports. No advice, no feedback, nothing. I feel like I was left utterly alone. Besides, it's late. I always get back to the apartment early in the morning, right before it gets bright. It's getting risky to be out here so close to sunrise. Accidents can happen. I'll try to get back earlier tomorrow night. Attempt to surprise Dakota. Yeah. I'm back? Yay. How was work? All caught up? I managed to get my deadlines postponed. All of our clients are cancelling and delaying orders left and right. Huh. Does that mean you will have time to help me out with my makeup tomorrow? We'll see. Perfect. Alright, I need to disappear before the sun catches up with me. Hey. I love you. Oh. An uneasy silence fills the room. I am not getting out of this one, am I? No, I have to. I didn't lie to the Baron of the New York City tonight, and I'm not going to lie to her. I know. Well, to be honest, I feel like that only works. Although, well, for a second I wanted to say that only works for Han Solo, but to be honest, that's how I respond to my mother telling me that she loves me, but obviously that's a totally different relationship, you know, a parent's love to a child compared to a romantic love between two independent adults. So, to be honest, I don't know. I don't have that much experience with romance, so I don't know whether hearing "I know" in response to "I love you" would be how would it fly, you know, in a romantic relationship. I guess that all depends on how insecure the other person is, because if they are insecure, they might start thinking that you didn't say "I love you" back to them because you don't. But obviously, if you have a very good relationship already, they might take the "I know" as kind of playful and don't really think a lot about it. I guess we'll see where it goes in this particular case. She flashes a sad, forced smile as I leave to rest. Well, I guess she was in the first group. She did kind of take offense at that. At the fact that I didn't respond, "I love you too." Okay, I need to rest. I finally reached the Big Beat Burger, hoping to recuperate from all of the mental damage accumulating over the past few days. Only to find that the doors are locked and nobody is inside. No, I need to be soothed. I need my routine. You absolutely got to be kidding me. Closed? What the fuck do you mean by closed? I mean, we are in the middle of a pandemic. Everything's closed. Oh, so wait, this has to be very current, right? This has to be released this year? Like in the last couple months? But to be honest, the game has not made it... If it was supposed to reflect the current sort of themes of the pandemic, then the game has totally not made a good job of it, because that's pretty much like the second direct reference to it, and I would feel, you know, if it is set in the current time frame, it would have impacted the entirety of the game and how people behave and all that a lot more, so I'm kind of not exactly impressed with that. Pandemic? What pandemic? Do we live under a fucking rock? It's a new SARS virus, straight from China. The whole world is going crazy over it. People are dying left and right. Holy shit. I didn't know something like this could still happen in this day and age. Somehow, it always felt like we were beyond it. Well, I guess it's lucky I'm dead. What? Why would you say that? Are you insane? Like, obviously, most people are not going to take that at face value, because it's so ridiculous, but, you know, there's always enough chance that somebody is like a, you know, Second Inquisition informant, or he's like learned in the occult or something, and he might keep that in mind, that you said that, and eventually over time start connecting dots. Why would you say that? I walk away to avoid bringing more attention to myself. Now I understand why New York City feels downright apocalyptic tonight. It's like a psychedelic experience to see these familiar streets empty and abandoned. Well, let's see what parts of the city are still alive in the middle of a plague. Okay, so I've got this, an aristocratic taste. All this malaise spreading through the boroughs is putting me in a weird mood. Seems like I can't outrun it, so maybe I'll intensify it instead? Smallpox hospital, here I come. A familiar smile. It took just 2 days for the city to go all the last man on earth. I probably won't have a better chance to soak in the atmosphere. What? To be honest, all of those both of those descriptions are kind of very vague, and I don't really understand what they are referring to. So I guess I will kind of choose at random. Let's go with this. So I don't know what smallpox hospital is even referring to. Like, I seriously doubt it's an actual hospital named like that. Well, let's go. I entertained the thought of sneaking through a hospital to see how things appeared up close, but it looked like an actual war zone, so I decided against it. I don't know what I expected with the way healthcare reforms have been going in this state. Fewer facilities in poorer areas, fewer beds, less funding. We are just reaping what they've sown. That's why I used to honestly consider going back to the old country. An American friend was like, "Why would you go back to that shithole?" He was shocked to learn that we have normal free healthcare. Anyway, if an active hospital won't do, this one might. The smallpox hospital on Roosevelt Island, built to quarantine and the poor and the unloved victims of pandemics away from normal citizens' eyes. So it's like a historical hospital. So I guess it could have been named smallpox hospital in the past, because obviously there was a lot less filter back in the day. You know, some words that are no longer used, or some phrases, you know, the way people spoke about certain things were different. For example, the words imbecile and cretin used to be medical descriptions, medical words describing the level of mental disability. But obviously nowadays they are very heavy insults, and you would no longer ever use them in a professional setting. But they used to be actual medical terminology. Okay. In spite of its disrepair, or maybe partly because of it, the architecture still manages to perfectly convey the building's painful history. There are ghosts here, but they are mostly the good, metaphorical kind, not the kind I usually see. Looks like there also might be a lone physical being here. I hear someone sneaking through the ruins. That's that for my peace and quiet. But oh well, I need to satiate my thirst anyway. How do I approach that person? Let's go through the shadows. I should be good at that, shouldn't I? I become one with the shadows. I let the flow of the void take me in the direction of the footsteps. Eventually, a female shape appears in front of my eyes. Slowly, I emerge from the darkness behind her back. Ah! Only to spook my target the moment I do. In her panic, she drops something on the floor. It breaks into 1,000 little pieces. God, don't scare me like that. I'm sorry? Look at what you made me do. She kneels to pick up pieces of some ugly glass sculpture. The shape is familiar. Was that a Scrooge McDuck figurine? Yes, it was. A Karl Barks design. They stopped making those decades ago. You don't even know how long it took me to find it. I was really looking forward to decorating my haven with this. Wait, so she's a vampire too? And she just blurted out haven like... Scrooge McDuck. It's pop art, okay? Haven. Of course, now I realize what I couldn't put into words. It was a feeling that she might be kindred. She seems airheaded and eccentric, but I wouldn't want to pick a fight with her. Call it a hunch. I apologize. My name is Julia, and I'm a Lasombra representative for the city. Some representative you are. Absolutely horrible first impression. Somehow, we've never met before. You live here? I prefer keeping to myself these nights. More time for hobbies if you hide in secluded places like this. What's your name? Just call me Princess. Princess? My true name is for friends only, and after destroying my treasure, I count you a sworn enemy. When you least expect it, I will find you, and I will trap you in a reality of eternal pain. I should complain to the court at least, honestly. Tell Helene to start looking for a replacement. So sorry won't cut it, huh? Kadir would surely be thrilled to see the prince assign me a mission of looking for a rare Scrooge McDuck statue, but I would prefer to avoid that fate, even if it doesn't seem very likely. How can I make it up to you? Should I search for a replacement online or... whatever. I'm not going to lie to you. I prefer not to stay mad for long. It's exhausting, and it's a threat to your beauty, both inner and outward. And so yeah, I think I'm going to ask you for a small favor, and then we'll be square, and I won't have to worry about becoming ugly. Sounds good? What favor? See, I'm super into low art these days. That's why I collect stuff like Scrooge McDuck lamps. I used to be hardcore into high art before, studied the harmonic structure of Bach's cantatas, taught myself Arabic just to weep over Middle Eastern poetry, read a lot of Joyce and Adorno, etc. Eventually these hobbies got so boring, as all things do, so I'm switching it up now. Comic books, heavy rock music, modern Hollywood movies, you know, stuff made for small children, basically. The problem is, I think I'm still not low enough. There is still too much mastery of the form, too much restraint, too much respectability, too much tastefulness. So basically, you want to go into even lower art? So is this going to bring up like some really trashy anime? Because some animes, God, like I'm not exactly a weeb. I don't really watch anime. Like I've only watched one in my entire life. But I've got a friend, my best friend is a freaking weeb, and he has told me stories that there are animes with plots so deranged that I cannot really even comprehend how somebody spent actual time, drawing a cartoon based on a, like, I remember there was an anime about, like, horse girls, and how they were in races, and if they broke a leg, they killed them. And there's also there's also an anime about girls being tanks, I believe, or maybe just driving tanks. It's like anime girls fighting in World War II or something. And there's even crazier stuff that I really feel kind of weird even describing, so maybe I'm not going to. But I kind of started to think about that. I want to feel the rush of gazing into the soul of someone willing to admit to truly degenerate desires and obsessions. Is it anime? Is it going to be anime? So I want the lowliest kind of art you can find. Just sweep me out of my feet and we'll be good. Not the kind of request I expected, but how low is too low? There's no such thing as too low. Huh, okay. Back when I was alive, I refused advances from a guy who lived just outside Astoria. He definitely still owns some incredibly low art, but what exactly should I get her? Yeah, sure, out of those, a fantasy book, a video game, and an anime DVD, I would say an anime, if you looked hard enough, has the greatest chance of being totally bonkers. So let's go with that. Okay, I will be back in a jiffy. Takes me just over an hour to get there, wake him up in the middle of the night, mess with his head a little, and get back with an appropriately low work of art. So I've got something. Don't be shy. What is it? I pass her a DVD with a busty hand-drawn girl licking a giant katana. According to the description he printed for me, this thing is named, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it out of my respect for the Japanese people. The cover says Lilith's Carnal Carnival. Yeah, no idea why the name is written like that. Anyway, the 90s original video animation presents us with the tale of 5 big-bosomed samurai warriors traveling through America in search of General Hastavista, the Incubus King. Don't let all of the titillation misguide you. The main draws here are peerless direction and nearly avant-garde editing rhythm, and the dialogue that coyly comments on traditional gender roles in anime. Once you see the animation in the final battle, you will understand why it never fails to set a Sakuga fan's heart ablaze. Note: Sakuga Uncountable. In Japanese animation, a sequence of noticeably higher quality used to highlight a particularly important scene. Interesting. I totally didn't know that. Is that a thing? Is that really a thing that's common enough that it has its own name, where the entirety of the work is kind of trashy, but then they splurge a little bit of additional budget on like a single scene that's really important? That's kind of interesting. But to be honest, I feel like it might have an adverse effect on the entirety of it, because it would be very jarring. I'm going to look up whether this is a real thing, and maybe if I find anything interesting, like a Wikipedia page or like some description from some article, I'm going to put it in the description. Well, so yeah, it sure does sound like low art. Well, to be honest, it kind of doesn't. Like, I was expecting something totally bonkers, and this just sounded like your standard anime plot. Eyes down, I await her response. This is great. Is it? Yeah, I have no idea what I'm looking at, but I can feel it's utterly degenerate and naked in its intentions. Just what I needed. Believe me, I've had more than enough of art trying to dazzle or win me over, or be used as a stepping stone in someone's illustrious career. But I just want someone to be like, screw it, I don't want to impress anyone, I don't want to get anywhere, I just want to vomit out my soul for all of the freaks like me to see. I think that in its own way, this might be the ultimate form of art. So, is my debt paid? I suppose. So can I know your name now? Let me think. No. How did she even... it's impossible for her to say that. What did she even say? Like, if we are talking out loud, how did she say the heart emoji? Like, come on. She turns away and disappears into the night. Well, that was an interesting distraction from all of the Malays in the city. I suppose it's time to get back to the miserable business I've been saddled with. Time comes for me to meet up with Kadir, and hopefully D'Angelo too. The last position on my list, this better be good. And that is D'Angelo's agency. Looks like a dump. Bleh. Perfect for the clan of the hidden. I thought he wasn't hidden. I thought he was missing, and to be honest, I kinda expected the worst. Where would we look for him in the most obvious place? I've been asking around, and I've got a hunch. Just trust it and start looking. Fine. Who is D'Angelo anyway? He's a good man, a useful man, but it took me time to get used to him. He takes sleuthing very, very seriously. His thing is acting like an idiosyncratic noir detective. I heard it help him cope with something, but I've never felt comfortable tackling the subject. It doesn't sound too quirky by this city's standards. Wait, what is that? There's a rat on the floor, frozen in an unnatural position. Weird shit. Examine it, I guess. Despite my disgust, I pick the rodent up. Now, that's what being an investigator is all about. Leave no stone unturned. Shut up. This is so gross. What have you found out? I take a closer, hard look at the rat. It's alive, but from what I see, he's just stretching out and like grinding his teeth without care in the world. That's called bruxing. What? When a rat chatters its teeth, that's bruxing. He's not acting panicked or aggressive, so I guess he's just happy. Actually, in humans, bruxing would be a sign of stress, and it's actually a condition you should kind of report that to your dentist, because it can seriously mess up your teeth if you keep gritting your teeth, because it's often sort of subconscious, kind of. You don't really realize that you're doing it, and you can even do it while asleep. In fact, I know people that have this problem, and you get like a special sort of, it's not a brace, it's like a, I don't know, a mouth guard, something along the lines of a mouth guard that you put in your mouth when you go to sleep, so that you don't grit your teeth while sleeping. I look at its face. I don't know. His eyes keep coming out of the socket and going back in. It looks disgusting, like he's in a lot of pain. So he's boggling. Must be really content. Why is Kadir so knowledgeable on rats? What's up with that? How does he know so much about... Yeah, right, that's kind of my question. Never mind. I'm getting an eerie feeling. It's weird, man. I have a feeling there's kindred nearby weird. My thoughts exactly. Kadir slowly approaches a secluded corner of the room. And there it is. He kicks a pile of clothes lying on the floor. I'm just a corpse. Leave me alone. Lucky for you, we're all corpses here, D'Angelo. You're among friends. Clumsily, drunkenly, the pile of clothes transforms into an unkempt man who looks like he's suffering from some sort of a skin disease. You know, a true friend would have just buried me. Unlucky for you, we're not that kind of friends. Lucky, unlucky, schmucky, my ass. How did you guess I was here? See, I've been talking around for these past few days. What I've learned is that for reasons that can be described as nebulous, you've made quite a few enemies since last year. Yeah, tell me something I don't know. And one thing that caught my interest is how everyone has it on good authority that your place was raided a few times without you being found, and yet nobody has assumed responsibility for these acts. Hell, doesn't this then always look like it was just raided? Can't blame anyone for making an educated assumption. I had a hunch that these might be more than rumors. See, it looks like a convenient coincidence when everyone hears something that makes them look the other way, and coincidences are for fools. So is he implying that D'Angelo himself arranged for his place to look like it was raided and that he was not found, so that nobody looks there anymore, because everyone assumes that it was checked a number of times already, and he sort of, hides right underneath the lantern, as it were? Well, you've got my number, and you can see my ugly mug right in front of you, so it's no use playing dumb, I suppose. Agreed. You've seriously spent all of those weeks holed up in here? Is the hunger not getting to you? You've got a lot of critters running around this area, and we've become chums. Some of these rats actually got addicted to the kiss. They come to me every night, acting like coke hounds, begging for it. Okay, that's kind of disgusting. How because I just imagined. Well, I guess eating rats is kind of disgusting in its own way, but for some reason, it's kind of even more disgusting to do it in a way where you only suck on them like a little, as to not kill them, and they become addicted to the sensation of it, so they come to you every night and you drink from them in this weird parody of like an intimate relationship. Like, that's kind of weird. Been getting them drunk just to get some rush out of feeding on them. Feels like a bit like slathering a horribly burned piece of pizza in ketchup, but in this situation, I will take what I can get, you dig? It's so gross, I fail to keep my poker face. He notices. Yeah, it kind of is gross. I have to admit that. So who's the dame? Julia Savinsky, a detective investigating Baron Callahan's death. He raises his head for a short while to stare in Kadir's eyes and treat him with a vulgar snicker. Oh, somebody has finally put the old man on ice. Whoever did it did the world a huge favor. Absolutely, but I've got orders to establish who that was, and I've been stumbling in the dark for the past few days. We need your help. I'll be damned. My sleuth skills must really not be up to par if you're begging a bum for help. No, your sleuth skills must really not be up to par if you're begging a bum for help. It's an unusual case. I'm not going to insult him by commenting on his apparent lack of dignity, because to be honest, as far as Nosferatu go, I feel like he looks downright pleasant. Like, when I played Coatrice, I was expecting something much worse. He's just a regular homeless man, to be honest. It's an unusual case. How so? It's extremely political. Oh, I asked, how is it unusual? It feels like the game was rigged against me from the start, like I'm just bumbling around and achieving nothing, while everyone laughs behind my back. Jeez, you sound hopeless, kiddo. Have you ever read a Chandler book? That's how it always is. Just do your best, endure the embarrassment, and hope that you stumble on the answer by accident. He accidentally lets a metal flask in his hand slip out and fall to the floor, and struggles to pick it up. Kadir can't bear to watch. God, what happened to you, Gianni? I've never seen you this low before. Stress-related disorders causing a disruption in my routine is what I think a shrink would say. Happens when a lot of shady folks are out to put a stake through your chest. Help us out, tell us what you know, and we might be able to help you in return. Yeah, Respect when it's due, miss, but I think it's going to be the other way round. I ain't telling the two of you shit, pardon my French, until I know that I can count on some protection. Gianni? Don't you Gianni me, Kadir Alasmay. I know that you're level, but I also know that your honor is one of those few things you care about. You want me to endanger myself? You must put it on the line for me. And that's that. You either promise to extend me your protection, or the moment you step away from me, I sneak away into the sewers, and that's the last time you will ever see me. Kadir shoots me a wary, sideways glance. I know, he drives a hard bargain. Especially for someone with a sense of self-worth, which does not exactly appear to be sky high at the moment. Maybe, but I do value my own life quite a lot. Thank you very much, friends. Kadir sighs. Alright, but 3 months from now, or the moment the Prince Panard tells me it's no longer possible for the court to offer you safety without compromising its principles, you're on your own. No negotiations. That's the only deal I can strike with you. Take it or leave it. D'Angelo scratches his head and grunts loudly, tags on his mask and stands up. That's Jake with me, big fella. I might have strong opinions about Panard, but hell, I'm sitting on dynamite. I'll take what I can get. Who else in New York would you rather rely on? You want me to call the mayor? My opinion about the prince isn't that bad. So, what do you good folks want from me? Who wants you dead? Huh? Starting the interrogation with a tricky one. Wouldn't I like to know? Step up. You seem to be forgetting how quid pro quo works. Wouldn't I like to know? Won't cut it. What can I tell you? That warlock Agathon, or whatever his name was, is presumed dead. Tamika missing in action, with the Second Inquisition on her back, and possibly killed by now. Hope the cook, hidden in her office under Van der Weyden's skirt. Around the time they started having trouble, some rough-looking streetwise kindred started hanging around my usual spot. Didn't take me long to connect the dots. Wait, what is the connection between you and those three? Ever since last year, folks started hiring us for various gigs, some even trying to get us to join their coteries. All these opportunities were rather short-lived. However, the delicate tightrope act of working various employers made us fully aware there's an intra-sect alliance in New York City. Kindred from both sides often work for the same goals without knowing it. The moment we started to figuring it all out, a cleanup crew went downtown. I know the serious warlock boy sniffed out something in his own backyard, but then poof, he disappeared. Then I lost all contact with Hope and Tamika and went AWOL. Hope they are doing fine, and that they didn't snitch on me to anybody. They are, and they didn't even tell me you guys knew each other, so I think you're safe. Wait a second. Why were you milking him for info, kid? I found a list of 4 names on Callahan's remains. You can probably guess what they were. I get the picture, yeah. Christ almighty. I've heard it was just a list of freelancers, potential associates, probably prepared by Carter van der Weyden. My money is on him being involved, but I smell bullshit. Have you got any idea who might have done the boss in? Any more clues? None at all. That's where we want you to come in, friend. Investigate the murder scene, the way only you know how. Tell us what you think. Guide Julia in the proper direction. D'Angelo sizes me up, scratching his head. Sure, whatever. I will try my best, kiddo. Lead the way. I'll drive you there. Or at least as close as possible. I wouldn't be welcome that deep into Anarch territory. Just clean yourself a bit. I just had my upholstery cleaned earlier this week. Okay, so I feel like this is a decent moment to end the episode, because it has been long enough. So that's all for this one, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.